You were saying.
I was saying phosphorus was an interesting mineral because the biological energy source of a cell is not actually carbohydrates. It's a ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And when a cell wants to do some work to multiply or to make more of itself, it will use a phosphate as its energy source. So ATP or triphosphate will go to a DP, a 2 or a monophosphate, and energy is released, and then work is done.
Doesn't the cell also? I heard that every cell, organ, system, everything in your body uses calcium as well.
Of course. Calcium is a great transporter of things through the bloodstream. You have to have it, but like phosphorus, you have to have some of all the elements. It can't be just one or two. If you have an excess of an element, it will cause many other elements to be unavailable. So if I give an animal a calcium excess diet, that causes phosphorus and iodine and manganese and zinc and probably several others to become unavailable to the bloodstream. So if you don't want your cows to breed, I'll just feed them an excess of calcium and they won't breed. I don't care what you do. They will not breed. Could do the same thing with magnesium. As a matter of fact, you could, if you give them enough calcium and magnesium, because those, especially magnesium, has to do with the coating of the nerves, and you can actually put an animal to sleep with it. They used to use Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, to operate on horses long before we had drugs.
And they would go totally under, no problem.
They would IV magnesium sulfate.
That's back when my dad was. We have a big drawing board and 2 markers, air conditioning.
Okay. Well, we're just visiting right now.
If I leave here, I mean, maybe he'll follow us in there, but
it's all right. We can do it. We can do this many different times. If you decide to come to one of those meetings up there, you'll get many of these things that I'm talking about. Or if you want me to come down and give a talk when these other, Greg Judy and this other guy from Zimbabwe, that'd be fine.
Right. Where are you coming from?
I live in Wisconsin.
Wow. You're just passing through here?
No, I specifically came because you needed the phosphorus and the cows weren't going to get it anywhere else, and Jimmy asked me to come. And
I didn't know he was coming today, but I asked him to come.
Yeah.
So you made a delivery? You brought?
I made a delivery.
Oh,
well, it happened to be the most important mineral that you needed. The cows said, I want phosphorus. I don't need anything else.
But you drove from the top of the country to the bottom of the country.
He went to see me in Houston once, just to visit.
Yeah, well,
you got to.
That's how I take care of things. Did I make any money? No, I lost money. It doesn't matter. This was important to take care of. If I didn't take care of this, then the animals are not going to perform.
But they could have. It could have been shipped just as fast as.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been here, and I wouldn't be able to see the cows.
I wanted him to see the machonas.
I've never seen that animal before. I mean, I do business in South Africa, and I'm going to be in Malawi a little bit to see.
It will be like
people.
the Nguni of South Africa.
Yeah,
more or less.
You have ATP produced in the plant for cellular energy source. Yes, the plant uses the sunlight and the water and the carbon dioxide to make sugars and starches and all that. But that source then will make ATP for the plant. So if your soils are quite short of phosphorus, the energy is naturally going to be low in your grass plant. And when the energy is low in your grass plant or forb or whatever type of plant it is, then the animal has to eat more of that plant material just to survive. Now, if it cannot overeat, then the animal will get a deficiency disease, that's what I call it, and get sick and die. So by supplementing phosphorus, free choice, if that's what they require, they'll eat that phosphorus. Some of it will be used in the cell of the body, and then, of course, once it's used, some of it will be redeposited back out on the soil. And that way you're putting in the soil exactly what it was short of. So it's a fertilization program, long term, and it usually takes, in northern climates, it takes about 7 years before they quit eating mineral altogether. Unfortunately, you guys down here have a sandy soil, and minerals tend to wander off, because, especially if you have a lot of rain. So, but if you were intensive grazing properly, you're going to start increasing organic matter, and the sand won't be a problem then. You're going to start making black dirt's what you're going to do.
It changes color.
Oh, yes.
We should take pictures now and every
Because
day.
if you do it properly, the way Greg Judy and Ian and you know, all of us
Jimmy.
promote Jimmy. Oh, and this guy.
Yeah, and Johan.
And Johan, because you know we've all been working at this for years and years and years. If you do that, you can make the production on one farm the equivalent of 4 within 3 years. It really makes a big difference, because one of the problems in the world today is land's kind of expensive, or at least in the United States it is. Land's very expensive, and if you can't make it produce 4 times what it used to, you can't pay for it. So the mineral part of it is just a tiny bit, but it's a piece of the puzzle that needs to be taken care of. The grazing is another part. Okay, and the animal to fit that particular area is another part. You know, that animal won't work in Wisconsin. They'll freeze to death. But an Angus will work quite nicely. So it depends. So,
But here in Angus, how would it work?
well, Angus won't work well down here at all. They'll remain thin, and if you just turn them out and do what you're doing right now, they'd starve to death. You'd have to supplement all the time. You'd have to go buy hay or alfalfa or something.
The corner post, is it, it doesn't, there's no, is there any way that it has the GMO, soybean, corn, cottonseed, or canola?
No. I do use the hull. In GMO, genetically modified plants, what that was is they took a gene from a plant in South America that when they sprayed Roundup on it, didn't kill it. So they said, oh, this is a great idea. I'll take the gene out of that grass plant and I'll stick it in these other plants that we have so that we can spray and get rid of all the weeds. The only thing that they didn't take into consideration was what they're doing is in that gene is they're changing a protein. Maybe the way it folds, or whether the stereochemistry is different.
Let me say something. He's a biochemist. That's why. It does.
Okay, the way the structure of it, it's kind of like the mirror images. You know, I have my hands are 4 fingers and a thumb, but they aren't exactly the same. They're a mirror image. Another example of that is the pretend sugar they put in diet sodas. That aspartame is an amino acid that can't be used for a protein source.
I hear that the GMO alters and mutates and destroys our DNA.
I don't believe that's true.
You know, it doesn't have an effect on the body.
No, because it's a protein that your body doesn't recognize as a protein or a particular amino acid.
So what does it think it is?
It doesn't know, and so it takes your body is fixed for a left-handed amino acid and not a right-handed. Okay, and so it gets in there, and now it's like trying to digest a piece of glass. What do I do with this? And so
don't digest it.
no, you don't digest it, and so if it does get absorbed in the bloodstream, then your liver and your kidneys has to figure out how to get rid of it. If it can't get rid of it, then you've got serious problems because it'll accumulate. But it does get rid of it, but it goes in a pathway that's awful hard on the body. So, I have 2 daughters that have PhDs in biochemistry, and
So it could be disastrous for your health or your life, but it doesn't change your DNA or
no, it's not
mutate
going to
it.
change the DNA. No, it's not going to be that reactive.
But the corn pulse, does it have any GMO?
Oh, I kind of got off track. I'm sorry. The GMO is going to affect the protein. I use soy hulls. I use organic soy hulls, but that doesn't mean that they're not GMO.
No.
You can say whatever you want, but unless you test it, you will not know.
They say certified organic doesn't mean the end product. It's just these are the practices that they're supposed to use to be certified.
Pretty much, that's true.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's true. If I was going to trust anybody, I'd trust milk that came from an Amish or a Mennonite farm because they go out of their way to make sure that it's right. But what I'm trying to tell you is it's in a protein. So if you're using the soybean meal or your cottonseed meal or a
Canola,
corn meal, it'll be in the protein where the GMO is located. The hull, it won't be there. Something that doesn't have any protein or very much protein, it won't be there. But anyway, I do use organic soy hulls. But like I said, that doesn't really mean anything because the air blows where it blows. And it'll take pollen from 1,000 miles away and deposit it, and I could still have the problem. But I wanted to tell you about my daughter. One of my daughters called me one day and asked me if I knew who Monsanto was. And I said, well, sure. And she said, well, Monsanto is looking for a protein chemist. Now, protein chemists are very specialized. I can't even explain how many ways there is to see how a protein is formed out of all these different amino acids and the formation and what makes them digestible or not digestible, what makes them be able to be broken down and the amino acids used in your body or not used. It's unbelievably complicated. And when she and when she told me that, I said, "Oh, that's very interesting." She said, "I just thought you ought to know," which usually means that they have a problem with their proteins. If it's possible that you're using genetically modified proteins and you're selling soybean for tofu for a protein source for people and they can't absorb it, you have a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's true 100%. I just know that if you're looking, there's probably a problem.
But Mark, I remember you used rice hulls, not soybean hulls.
Not on corner post.
When we
Yes.
did it, we used rice hulls.
Yes.
Can you make
But
it with rice hulls?
Yes, but rice has the same problem.
Oh, GMO? too?
Yes.
GMO
Canola?
rice?
Yes.
So we cannot buy rice bran and be sure that it's
No.
not non-GMO?
You can't be sure of anything anymore.
Oh, Only of grass.
I'm sorry?
Only of
Only,
grass.
only of,
And leucaine and those-
probably. I mean, I don't know the extent that it's been done, but, you know, it's gonna be a problem. And I think Monsanto and people in that area know it, and I think they're trying to identify it, but they don't wanna,
We don't want to use corn because of that. Is Milo also have GMO?
oh, yes. Don't use grain anyway, if you're in the grass business.
No, for the chickens.
Oh,
For the chickens.
okay,
Not for the cows, no.
okay.
No,
well,
we're gonna use soldier fly pupa for that,
Yeah,
for chicken.
but that's for the protein, but we need the energy.
All right.
I don't know how to do it.
Well,
Well, no problem. We won't
it's,
have many chickens.
you know, you can use,
We're
you
going
can
to do
use,
cows and sheep. mostly.
there's a way to do it. Remember I told you that the GMO is a protein thing. So you could use, you know, if you look at corn, what gives corn its energy is the sugars, the starches, and the fats. So make your own sugars, starches, and fats.
How do you make your
Well,
starch?
you can get vegetable oil
Yeah.
because it won't, the GMO won't be in the oil,
Okay. So we do
okay?
vegetable
And
oil.
sugar, no problem. And
What kind of
starches,
sugar?
What type of sugar?
any kind of sugar.
Well, that's
Doesn't matter. Well, not for a chicken.
no.
You'd have to use table sugar, you know, cane
Bleached?
sugar.
Bleached?
No, it doesn't have to be bleached.
Raw.
Raw sugar.
I hear 95% of the beet sugar crop is GMO too.
Now let me give you an idea. You know mulberries?
Yep.
The leaves, they are very high in protein and energy.
Okay.
We could mix that with oil
Well, sure.
and what else? The soldier fly pupa
Sure.
and grass and what else?
Well, you're going to have other bugs that those. If you're moving these
We're going
in a
to-
pasture, they're going to have other bugs, and they're going to go through manure piles and pick up bacteria and
What about flaxseed
No,
meal for cows?
GMO.
Flaxseed?
Yep.
It's high in omega-3.
I'm sorry. Oh, you can use the oil.
Okay.
Just the protein is if you're trying to completely
so
stay.
those two cows, if we want a very high quality milk from them,
Yes.
what should we feed them? They're jerseys. So I brought a flaxseed meal, I brought oats, corn post, and I think I could do it with that and irrigating the grass.
Well, you know, if there's a problem with the absorption of GMO proteins, then the animal is going to take it in and it's not going to be able to use it, so it's not going to change its DNA.
But it won't
or-
harm the animal, or will it? Because I read that pigs, they had fertility problems, for example.
No.
Because
I hear there's a list of, infirmities and from GMO,
I
from
think-
Alzheimer's to.
I think it's
Say you?
an effect of an excess. You know, you can take a little bit of poison and get along fine, like that rat poison they use for people to thin their blood. Yeah,
To thin the blood.
but you take a little and it does something good. But if you take too much, then you've got a problem. And I think GMO can be the same situation. You know, I'm not saying it's desirable to do, but the amount of GMOs that we're accumulating is starting to be a problem. In dairy herds, for instance, the higher the GMO products they use in soybeans and this sort of thing, you'll find the higher the somatic cell count and the chances of mastitis are. Now, is that because that GMO caused that disease? No, I don't think so. I think it affected the building blocks of the immune system. In other words,
So it did cause it in effect.
Yeah, but if the bacterium hadn't been there, you wouldn't have got the disease.
In a roundabout way.
Yes, in a roundabout way. I think of I think a little different than
It's like you say, if
you can't
if
make
you're-
an antibody.
But if you're healthy, if you've got all the nutrition you need, then you can't get sick. But if you can't get the protein, and then you're going to get sick.
And your chances of getting sick are much greater. That's true.
Tell him about how each specific antibody consists of one specific trace element.
Yeah. You know, if it's like building a house. You know, you can have everything you need, but if you don't have the nails, nothing's going to happen. And antibodies, your system is the same way, and you need all the right proteins or amino acids to make the proteins, and all the right fatty acids and the sugars and all the minerals, and your body will make an antibody. You know, you'll get a little vaccination is just a little bit of that disease, okay? And your body says, and most antibodies are a big fat or protein molecules or a big molecule. And in the center, to be specific for that organism, will be a trace element, usually, like copper or zinc. You've heard of zinc and coals. Oh, it could be, you know, but if you don't have enough of that specific trace element, they don't care what else you do, you're going to get that disease because your body cannot make the antibodies.
Like John's disease, I was told.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Johne's disease is the same thing as Crohn's. It's not that hard to solve, but nobody's going to listen to me because I'm not a doctor.
They killed the cow and that's it.
Yeah, they just kill the cow. But you don't have to. All Crohn's or Johne's disease is an undesirable bacterium living in the gut, and all you have to do is starve it to death and promote the others, and it'll go away. It's not too hard to to do. I've done it for lots of cows. I've never done it with a person. I have my bacteriology professor has it, and she won't do anything that I suggested. You know, but she's so.
You mean Crohn's disease?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. It's very interesting. But I told her what to do about it. I don't know whether she will or not, but
Could you
she's too
explain-
well educated.
Do you want him to explain how the cornflakes work?
Oh, we were getting to that, weren't we? We never got to that subject.
Sorry, but
No, I really started with, does it have GMO in the corner post?
Oh,
that's the first.
can I say that? Say no? No, I can't say no.
Because of the
Because of the soy hulls
That's the only
and or
reason.
the rice hulls. Yeah. See, I don't know that.
But the whole
The hulls
shouldn't be a
shouldn't
problem.
have hardly any in it at all. if
But
there
it's
is.
soy, it's organic soy, so maybe that was grown
Yeah,
and there was
well-
no air blowing pollen around.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
That's why I'm not going to lie to anybody.
Well, it's organic, you know.
What are you going to do?
What are you gonna do?
That's right. So, okay, we made the corner post back in the 50s. And what it was for is specifically for the digestion of cellulose.
You, not
My
you.
dad.
Your dad? He
Yeah.
invented corner post?
Yeah. Okay. Back in 53 or something like that. I wasn't very big then. I was kind of young. And we used some alcohol, some ethyl alcohol, and we used some fatty acids, and we used some cultures specific for digestion of cellulose. Like there's no lactobacillus in there, which is digestion of sugars and starches. You don't. That's not required. That won't help you, especially when you have nothing but sticks for them to eat. And because the cow has the ability to overeat 30% or 40 in a lot of cases, that means the cow can eat 40% more to ferment enough energy out of the body or out of the feed to support its, its body and maintenance. If it can't get enough energy, then what happens is the animal will starve to death. She'll fill her rumen completely full of feed, and it'll cause compaction, and she will die.
That's why I started giving them bigger pieces here.
Exactly. So you can increase the energy of the diet of the animal.
If
Well-
if it doesn't rain here soon, there won't be any energy out there.
There will be, because now we have the minerals. Once they started eating the phosphorus, they started to change faster in the cold.
No, I'm just saying if we don't get rain, there won't be any green grass. It'll all be cellulose. It'll all be sticks.
Yeah, but there is energy in the sticks
Yes.
if it can be digested. That's what the corner post is for.
That's why
But eventually you'll run out of sticks.
no, we have enough sticks for another 100 days.
Well, anyway.
But if it doesn't rain this summer like it didn't last summer or the summer before,
then
Or-
you're going to be in a world of
No,
hurt.
we're gonna have to buy hay, right?
Irrigate.
Oh, well then, all right. You can. There's always an option.
And if that doesn't work, we gotta buy hay.
Yeah, well,
That's going to work.
yeah, don't buy hay. That's too expensive.
That's the most expensive.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to do things that you have to do. All right, so if I fed an animal a third of a pound of corner post, that you can actually measure that they'll reduce down their intake of that pasture, if you measured it, by 30%. Okay, so that's making, your farm worth a third more, as far as I'm concerned. And the cost for that third is about 20 cents. So
20 cents per cow?
Yeah.
And the hay is like 250
250
per cow.
per cow per day?
So you.
Is that all,
so,
250?
So it makes you.
I know.
If you're
But you have
short-
1,000.
And
If
every
you're-
day.
If you're short of feed, it's a big deal. Now, if you've got feed running out your ears and it's raining and you got thousands of acres and 10 cows, you don't need corner post because they can, graze and overeat and it doesn't matter. But when things get a little more serious, then it's more important. Another good thing that corner post does is it promotes the acetic acid production in the rumen. Now, those cellulose digesters produce acetic acid. And acetic acid is the precursor to your butter fat in dairy cows.
What's in vinegar?
Yeah, well, acetic, yeah. And it's also the marbling in fats.
For
Not-
finishing the steers. That's
Yeah, not the fat cover, but the interstitial fat. So that's, and by the way, the marbling or the interstitial fat is what gives meat its flavor. So the high, what's that?
juiciness also.
Oh, well, sure,
Yeah, the fat.
Juicy.
sure. So, if you want a lean piece of meat that doesn't have any flavor, but fine, that's okay with me, but that interstitial fat is not only tastier, but it's much healthier for you.
Well, we want the CLA in the meat.
Well, that's
That's what we want.
that's what you're that's what you'll end up with. But you have to promote acetic acid production and not lactic. That's why you don't want to
The
use
strap is in the
grain.
lens, Michael. The strap is in the lens.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There, so it's a little boring just holding holding that for a while. Your hand gets tired.
I know you don't see people's faces.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
why I keep asking questions to keep you moving.
Okay, so that's what, that's why we developed the corner post, is for the increased cellulose digestion. And it just so happened that finally people are starting to come around to grass-fed. Many people, especially in the north, that have more lush grasses are going to have a problem though, because the protein of their grasses is so high that it's going to cause a higher blood urea nitrogen content. What happens is the bacteria in the rumen, if they don't require protein, but they require energy, they will take an amino acid and deammonize it and use the carbohydrate end as an energy source and release the amine group or the ammonia as a gas which goes into the bloodstream. And then you have a blood urea nitrogen content that's increased. Doctors check that stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so as the blood urea nitrogen increases, then it works on the liver and the kidneys to get rid of that excess. But the liver and kidneys are, of course, filters, but they're limited on the amount that they can get rid of. So on these high protein diets, this blood urea nitrogen level goes up and up and up. And also the milk urea nitrogen levels go up. They test that nowadays. And also your muscle tissue urea nitrogen levels will increase. Now, the bad thing about that is urea is not a protein, and it's very bitter. And so the consistency of grass-fed beef is going to be very variable because some people are finishing them on lush green pasture and some people are finishing them on mature dry grass. Well, on the lush green, you're going to get a bitter piece of meat that's very lean. The CLAs and all the fats are going to be very low, and nobody's going to like the beef. They won't be able to chew it, and it won't taste good. But the ones that are finished on mature dry grass, they will be very tasty.
Pause. Junior's not here. We can go inside.
Okay. Set it down. Okay. When you look at a ration for the diet of an animal, people normally look at starches and sugars and fats and proteins, but we break it down into elemental forms, into carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen.
So this is what you were talking about. You're not feeding on the molecular, you're feeding on the atomic level.
Yeah.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm really going to hear this, huh?
You don't have to.
No, I was like, what could possibly...
Well, if you look at the sugar, all the sugar is a mixture of carbon, a bunch of carbons, and some hydrogen, and some oxygen. Okay. There's a carbohydrate. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are sugars, starches, fats. The only difference between a sugar and a starch and a fat is the number of carbons and hydrogens and how they're put together. And that's the only difference. So if you look at grains, it'll have a certain percentage of carbon, a certain percentage of hydrogen, and a certain percentage of oxygen. I'll show you. Here's corn. We'll have a carbon content. By the way, since carbon is the backbone element, then you're talking about 46% carbon, give or take. It will vary. The hydrogen content will be around 7%. And the oxygen content will be about 45. And what's left of making this into 100% is just some mineral elements like phosphorus and calcium and manganese and all the different trace elements. So, and nitrogen, of course, because you're going to have some protein. So the nitrogen is going to be about 1.3%. So if you multiplied 1.3% nitrogen times 6.25, that'll give you your protein content. Actually, because it's a grain, it needs to be multiplied times 5.7 instead of 6.25. So carbon never changes that much. It's pretty constant. But these here can change drastically in feeds if you analyze them. I have a device that analyzes for carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, so I know what this is. Now, carbon supplies 9,000 calories per gram. But pure carbon doesn't burn. That's a diamond. That's why they stick it on drill bits. Hydrogen supplies 25,000 calories per gram. So if you fix some hydrogen to carbon, it'll burn. So you've got some methane here. Now, in the absence of oxygen, methane won't burn. So you add some oxygen to it, and then the end result of burning or metabolizing a carbohydrate then is carbon dioxide and water and heat or work done. So this happens in the body of ours, of chickens, of pigs, or gasoline engines. It's all the same. A little quicker in a gasoline engine than in the cell of the body, but this is, we urinate out the water, we breathe out the carbon dioxide, and then some work gets done occasionally. All right, so, I'm sorry?
We're disagree with you.
Yeah. Unless you're in Washington, D.C., and I don't know, all you got is carbon dioxide coming out.
Hot air.
And methane.
Whatever. All right, and so on oxygen, you can't have all pluses. Oxygen is a negative 3,125 calories per gram.
What does negative mean?
It takes.
Well, when you're going to combine something, you have a bunch of pluses and you have negative charges, and it goes to combine, for instance, water. You can't have all H2O, doesn't supply any energy. There's two hydrogens, and hydrogen weighs 1, 2 times 25,000, 50,000 plus, right? So we got a plus 50,000 calories. And oxygen weighs 16, so 16, so times 3,125 is going to give you a negative 50,000 if you want to multiply it out. So you have a net energy of 0. So you have to put energy into this to break this apart to get energy out. So it's a net equal. All right. So if you look at the metabolism of the cell of the body, the optimum oxygen content is 40.5% of the diet on a dry matter basis needs to be oxygen. If you have higher than that, then you with an excess of oxygen, you get drying of the mucous membranes. Okay, that's one of the first things that happen. You get acidosis or founder or colic in horses. So an excess oxygen gives you a serious problem. All right, now if you have oxygen lower than this, then the cells of the body are burning fat in the absence of oxygen, so you're producing ketones. They call it ketosis in dairy cows, diabetic coma in people. And what do they give somebody that has that diabetic coma problem? They give them sugar. Well, sugar happens to be probably about 58% oxygen. That's what brings them out of it. So corn being 45% oxygen is a good feed to give you acidosis. So Now when I want to look at,
Put molasses. I want them to see why our cows have the hoof. It grew like if they had acidosis, but they were fed molasses for a long time in the desert.
is that right?
Yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah, the carbon's about the same, I think.
We have to fix the hoof.
45 and a half, I think. 6.4% hydrogen and 50% oxygen.
Very high in oxygen. Acidosis.
Yeah.
Laminitis.
And that gives you the acidosis, that's why you get the founder.
Yes.
So the first thing that I do when I balance somebody's ration, if it's a dairy ration or a fat cattle ration or whatever, is I want to get this oxygen at 40.5%, so I get the best efficiency out of the diet. Then I want to balance hydrogen with protein, because the problem is here's energy, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Now if I just add some ammonia, now it's a protein. The only difference between a carbohydrate and a protein is this guy right here. Now the problem with that guy right there is if the bacteria in the rumen of the cow, which are doing all the feeding anyway, if they require more energy and they don't require so much protein, they will take a bite and spit that out. It's called deaminize the protein. Now you use the carbohydrate, and for an energy source, this gets released as a gas. Goes up and becomes, if it's fast enough, it'll be the gas that causes the bloat. Okay? So, and
Like when they eat too much clover.
yeah, clover, alfalfa, especially legumes. Legumes have an oily substance in them called saponins that traps that gas, and that's what gives you the frothy bloat. Okay.
Here is your eraser.
Oh, that's good, good, because otherwise things get confusing up here.
I translated this talk like 50 or 80 times, and I give it in Spanish.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so in the rumen, here's my rumen. Here's my ammonia coming off as gas. Then along comes, now because this is gas and the rumen is gas permeable, that means this ammonia is going to go right into the bloodstream. And now it's blood urea nitrogen. Okay, and it's going to be taken to eventually to the liver. My red's running now. The liver and the kidneys, which filter it out. But all filtering devices tend to plug up. It's not really plug up, but it can't handle. It can't get rid of this waste product, which is going in above the digestive system or the digestive tract, the last meter of the intestinal tract where everything gets absorbed. So if you got this blood urea nitrogen level kind of high in here, you're going to inhibit the uptake of some things from the digestive tract, like copper or phosphorus or calcium or magnesium or on and on. It's going to cause some problems there too. And also when this system gets plugged up and it goes on around and it goes up here through the lungs. One of the biggest problems that people talk about is heat stress, especially in cattle in the north. And dairy cows, they're always looking for a place to hide under the shade. Not that that's not important, I like to do that too, but if you've got increased blood urea nitrogen, this blood urea nitrogen, this urea gets taken up by the red blood cells to make what they call methemoglobin. So the hemoglobin, as we know, transports carbon dioxide out of the cells to the lungs to be gotten rid of, and then to bring oxygen in for us to breathe. But if we got this ammonia in here, which is not going to be gotten rid of through here, it has to be done in the liver and the kidneys, then it's going to inhibit the uptake of oxygen and the transport of carbon dioxide out of the system. So the higher the protein in the diet you have animals over there, and especially in the summer when the oxygen molecules are farther apart, it's a gas law deal, and humidity. And so you have animals standing under a tree going, and everybody says it's because of the heat. No, it wasn't just because, that's a minor part of it. The major part of it was right here. And so your animal performance suffers very badly. Cows will die from it.
Your respiratory system is suffering.
Shuts down.
Overloaded with ammonia.
Yep.
Ammonia.
And you can test it. You can take a bun test, or if you've got dairy cows, you can take a mun test. But you could just check the pH of the urine.
Do you bring tape?
Of course not. But
I have one. I have.
the pH of the urine needs to be about 7. If it's above that, you've got a lot of blood urea nitrogen. When it hits 9, cows are not going to breed. I don't care what you do. They ain't going to breed. If it's below 7, then you're going to put on more fat and less muscle tissue. Now, that may be okay, depending on what you're trying to do. Just remember, it takes 2 1/4 times more energy to put on a pound of fat than it does a pound of meat. But you have to have some fat. Okay. So you're not likely to have this problem here. Not now.
In the winter, maybe.
Maybe. Once you get your fertility up. Now you used to fertilize, or they used to fertilize a great deal here on some of these areas, and I don't know whether nitrogen was retained very much or not on sandy soil. Probably not. But it is a possibility
it has
that.
plastic all over the soil.
And Roundup.
Oh yeah.
Plastic, and then fabric, and then the big pots.
Oh, I was thinking about they used a nitrogen source so that a lot of these grass plants under dry situations have nitrates.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying if you.
They have a ridge and a swale every 200 feet.
No, probably
Because
not.
it was so much water that they put it on that they needed
Oh,
to drain
no.
it out.
You're
And
not
it's
gonna-
sandy soil.
You're not going to have a
No.
nitrate
I don't think so.
problem here. So. Okay. Questions? It's enough. You
Does it work that way in people's gut too?
Absolutely.
The same.
So I'm out there packing in the summertime,
Yeah.
I'm not having a heat issue?
Well, you don't probably eat a protein excess. Well, maybe
No,
you do.
no, I do.
He's
I'm a
on that
protein.
Atkins diet. That
Right.
Atkins diet.
That's why I'm eating all these chips, because I never get any carbohydrates all over.
It's not. Check the pH of your urine. That's all you have to do.
Get my pool kit and whiz it.
Sure.
No, they sell the ketone paper for
Yeah.
for that diet. Have you read the book?
Are you,
need to
are you
check
on?
your
You're on. She doesn't like doing that research. She wants to go to work for some drug company. She says academia and the other business don't get along very well or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my grass.
When it rains, that's going to be very important. Right? What it's going to.
When it rains. Got it.
Or when we irrigate.
2 more weeks.
Positive
Two more
here.
weeks. He says it's going to rain this weekend. Tim says, no?
Yeah, in Wisconsin.
It rained
Right now.
on all his way back. On his way coming here.
Okay. This is my son. My red doesn't work very well. When you have a grass plants, what they do is they have little pores called stomata. So they take in the CO2 that we breathe out. Now, CO2 is not an energy source. You put out fires with it. It brings up water. This is stuff you learned in the 5th grade. Everybody forgot it. Mostly if they're politicians, they forgot it. Water is taken up to put out fires with it.
Mark.
No, I don't care.
Okay, you too.
I don't care what
Okay, go on.
what group. It doesn't matter. They're all idiots. Then with the sunlight or photosynthesis, the bond is broken between the water and the hydrogen and the oxygen. Oxygen is released into the air, and the hydrogen or energy is combined with the carbon dioxide to make a carbohydrate. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So there's my energy.
Markers? You don't have any more markers?
Sorry. Sorry. That probably won't pick all this stuff up. It doesn't matter.
I think it is, yeah.
All right. So energy
Just
is,
check it down, the marker, like, yeah.
all right. So energy comes from water and sunlight and the green plant in photosynthesis, and this is what causes. Now out here in the country, everybody's worried about too much CO2 gases, but if you calculate up the amount of CO2 we actually require in the country, we could increase our production of grass plants or tonnage by probably a third more if we could take all the carbon dioxide that's in excess in the city and transport it out there to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get Washington to pay us to take their carbon dioxide and bring it out here. I mean, it's serious. This is a big deal.
That's sequestering carbon.
Isn't that the carbon credits thing?
No, I mean physically pay us to take it so that we can grow more grass.
Yeah, they
Wouldn't that
are
be wonderful?
paying.
I don't want carbon credits. I want them to physically
Well, they
pump
pay
it
for
out
it.
there.
How are you going to capture it and transport it and deliver
Oh,
it?
that's what we're doing.
Well, you
Why not?
you put a big cap over it. Anyway, I'm sorry, we're getting off the subject. But we don't have enough carbon dioxide. We could utilize much more if we could get it, because we don't have enough.
Everybody should have pyrolysis machines. They should put biomass and trash and they
And
should
you'll
just.
produce carbon dioxide. That's true.
But it'll produce energy and then the carbon, carbon from the wood you put in the ground, inoculate it with life, and then put it in the ground, and then you're really sequestering it.
There you go.
He's talking about biochar.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But as you're creating methane gas to sell, you're also going to, in that digestion process, you're also going to produce carbon dioxide as a waste material.
Yeah, but the wood decomposing would put into the atmosphere way more than the little bit that comes out of the smokestack.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I agree with that. But what the decomposing is a process of bacteria breaking it down and releasing carbon dioxide. So it's not a bad thing. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have any green plants and nothing to feed a cow.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Now, the nitrogen, most of the air is 78% nitrogen. So here it is. But elemental nitrogen doesn't get used by a plant. It has to get fixed or in a form the plant can take up, maybe a nitrate or sometimes small amino acids or some ammonia. All right, and it gets taken up, and generally it's transported by potassium. If you have alfalfa fields, if they want higher protein content in their alfalfa plant, they will put in a higher potash level or higher potassium level because it transports nitrogen up into the plant.
Here it is very low in potassium.
Yeah, but I'll bet they used to have to use a lot of potash for your plants, didn't you? Or your trees or whatever.
Lots of everything.
See, they
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm such a novice. I was reading an article about using human urine for fertilizer. Is that
sure, a lot of it.
Yeah.
There's where your nitrogen,
Right.
urine, urea, nitrogen. Very good source of nitrogen.
So when I pee on a plant, really, I'm just killing it with the salt in the urine, not with the. Because if I pee on a plant long enough, it'll die.
Yeah, but you've got a lot of sodium coming out.
That's
too.
what I'm saying. It's the salt that's killing it. So how do you? I just. What do you? How do you separate it?
Well,
Just don't do it as often, just once.
don't concentrate it in one area
Okay.
because the plant probably
Fish it around.
Water
Water them all.
water it in, you know?
it's an excess. There is actually a requirement in the plant for salt,
Right.
sodium and chloride.
We are very
But-
low in sodium too here.
But the problem is in the fertilization business, we went a little nuts and we used excessive amounts. And that's what hurt the plant. That's what happened with the cow. All right. If we put on too much nitrogen in whatever form, manure or urea or anhydrous or something, and this ammonia is coming up here in the plant, then that's what causes the protein to come up. Now, if you look at this grass plant, the energy is going to be highest in the top third, and the protein is going to be lowest in the top third, because the sunlight doesn't come down here, it doesn't come over here and go down here and then go down. It doesn't do that. It comes in straight lines. So, and at night, or lots of cloudy weather, you don't produce much energy. So it's not a very good time to graze for high performance in the middle of the night or when it's all cloudy. So if the energy is highest in the top third, it's going to be lowest down here, so you should graze the top if you want the best performance. And also this nitrogen is coming up here. To stay away from protein excess or possible nitrates, you want to make sure that you just graze the top third. Now, there's another advantage of grazing just the top third is that once you eat this bunch off and you move the animals to another paddock, now I have this much more plant to collect sunlight to regrow. Okay, if I went through and ate it all off to down here, which one's going to regrow or recover faster? Well, this one. This is the part about intensive grazing that I've been trying to teach people for 20 years but wouldn't listen. Alan Savory wouldn't listen, bunches of them, and they would get more grass production, but the animal performance suffered terribly. And finally we went, my dad said to Alan Savory, is the cow part of the whole or is it just a tool? Well, he had to admit it's part of the whole. So he showed Alan this. Now everybody and his dog now tells people to graze the top half or top third. And that's what they should do. And they'll get better performance. And they'll get not only better performance out of the animal, but they'll get better performance out of their grass. That's why you can take one farm and turn it into production of 4 farms just by doing that. It's really, really a neat deal.
Yeah.
Well, no one does that here, except us. No one does that. They graze the whole field.
I know.
Down to nothing.
I know. They still doing this,
But they just put them in a big place
And let 'em
and
go.
just.
let them go until the grass is this tall.
Then they
And
throw
the
some hay
roots.
in there.
There is, yeah, no
The roots
roots.
are a mirror image of the grass, so the grass
That's right.
is this big, the roots are. Sure.
So when you cut the grass down, the roots die off.
Yes, that's how you produce organic matter if you let them rest so they can grow up again. But if you keep cutting it, it
The
will
whole thing.
eventually die.
Yeah, in '97, I was in South Africa. They asked me to speak over there at one of their holistic management meetings, and I told them this, and they it's a different culture, and they burned every year. They would burn because that stuff, the stalks of wood, and the cattle starved to death on that. But they burned every year, and I said, "You quit doing that. Burning is the worst thing you could do, because if you don't knock some of this material down on the soil, you can't feed the bacteria and all the other organisms and make more organic matter so that the plant, so that they can feed the plants."
It's like you're turning all of your potential organic matter into ashes.
Yeah.
And maybe some
Well, when's the
carbon.
last time you ever fed a culture of bacteria?
Ashes.
Just ashes. Nothing will grow. It's mineral. Pure mineral won't grow nothing. You have to have a carbohydrate. Well, where are you going to get a carbohydrate to feed these from unless you get it from that thing? Nobody's going to go out there and chop up corn, silage, and hay and feed their ground. They think it's a waste. Actually, it's the cheapest thing they could do.
Especially when the cow tramples, if you let
Yeah.
them trample 40% of the pasture into the ground.
Exactly. The more that you trample, the more you will get back.
That's true.
You can't.
Because you're feeding biology, you're not
Exactly.
killing it or robbing it or making it disappear.
That's right. You're feeding the soil, and the soil will give you more back. This is the reason that the grazing works if you do it properly.
That's
This
like
right here.
That's like when they go in and they put chemical fertilizer. They kill. I got conventional tomatoes. They go in and they plow it, then they disc it, and then they mound it. And while they're mounding it, they drop 2 drip lines and then a plastic bag over the mound, and they seal it with a hose in there. They gas it. They kill everything in the soil, and then they add some nitrogen and phosphorus and something or other
Yeah.
that's man-made. And there's no life in the soil,
No,
and
that's
of
right.
course you've got to put all of that chemical in there, and it's not alive. It's dead plants that look like they're alive, and they taste like cardboard and
Yeah, they have no flavor.
nothing.
And if you actually analyzed it, you would see it would be short on a lot of different things. You could just check it with a refractometer and see that it's not desirable.
It's not alive. It's not
The
living.
sugar content will be low.
The
Exactly.
flavor is not there, like strawberries. No,
But
they
we,
don't taste.
one of the problems, Amish and Mennonites are terrible about this, because when I showed them this, when New Zealand style grazing came in, nobody was going to listen to me. You didn't want to waste anything. You ate it down to here.
The Amish do that. They mow it right down.
They used to. Some of them, but they found out it didn't work.
They mow
I
it, but
told
they-
them.
or
I
they
mean
graze it.
mow it with the
No,
grazing
they would graze it.
to the nub.
They would graze it with the cows, and they'd bring the heifers and the dry cows, and then they'd bring the mules and the horses. Well, you know, mules and horses, it got this tall. And then, if there's still some that they didn't get,
Sheep.
they would mow it. Physically mow it, because it didn't look nice. And then they would fertilize it, like they do in New Zealand.
And that kills all
Oh,
the microbes in the soil.
And so what happens when you get a little bit of dry weather? Nothing happens.
Dies.
There ain't nothing for the animal to eat. And when they were up there, Allen Nation and that newspaper, the Stockman Grass
Stockman
Farmer,
Grass.
promoting all this New Zealand grazing and doing that, and I said, that ain't gonna work. I showed them this. I told them which plant's gonna recover faster, which one will give you more tons per acre.
And it is true that if you graze the top third, the bottom third of the roots die.
Yeah, that's true.
So if
But
you graze the whole thing, the roots die,
Yeah.
all of them.
And then you let it recover, and hopefully the roots will grow and then go even deeper. See, there's two parts of this. You graze the top third, but then before you come back again, you must let it recover to here, plus a little. So you're constantly growing more forage. And that way, you're constantly
Growing roots.
growing roots. That's how it works. It's very simple. It's 5th grade biology that we all forgot.
Now I would like to talk a little about Bermuda. Can I?
Oh yeah, you know me.
This.
You're
Now Bermuda is a different plant. I'll do it on this side.
Keep going, I got it on video, I'll be right
Here?
back.
Yeah, sure. Okay, if it's on video,
Here.
I'll do it on this side.
Well, your belly button might be on video. I don't know if you're so tall that.
Well, I'll draw here. Bermuda grows more like
I need to go back on that diet too a little.
a stalk with leaves.
Mhm.
It's a strange grass. And it trails and it has leaves all over. And then it has roots all over. So it's not one plant. And when it flowers, it stops sending up shoots. So if you try to graze this, the cows won't eat it when it's flowered because the protein content goes below 6%. Especially here where we have very low potassium. So the cows will go in and will eat the leaves that they can eat, but essentially they will ignore the Bermuda and go after the bahia because the bahia is all leaves. So what we want to do for the first time, because that is a frosted Bermuda grown last year or more than a year before, never grazed. What we want to do, and we have this dog fennel too. Dog fennel is a weed that grows big right now. It's like here. We're going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So after grazing the bahia and trampling the Bermuda, we're going in and mowing the dog fennel and the Bermuda, hoping that we get some rain and we have new shoots from the Bermuda, because if you don't graze it or mow it, and we cannot force the cows to graze it right now because they're going to start calving in June.
Yeah.
And our quality is very poor.
Mhm.
You saw how much
Yep,
phosphorus
yeah.
they are eating.
Yeah, you don't want to.
So that's why we need, if we don't mow this Bermuda when it's flowering, it won't send up new shoots. It will just stay dormant. That's the Bermuda part. Every other grass is like you said.
If you
just like
didn't,
said.
if you didn't have cows calving,
Oh, then I will
This-
force them. I will feed them corn post and force them to graze it down. That's it.
yeah, if
For the first time.
if you didn't have them calving, if they'd already calved a month,
Yeah.
then when you make a paddock,
Well, they're going to start calving when it's going to start raining, supposedly.
yeah, but
June, July, and August.
okay. If you had a bunch, let's say you had a bunch of steers. Okay, we don't have.
Years.
And normally people will make these big square paddocks. And when you put them in there, the animals will spread out. So you don't get the animal
No,
impact.
I'm doing them rectangular.
I understand. I'm just wanting to show the reason that when you put them in there. But if you put all the animals in here so they had to go this way, you will get 80% of it knocked down. You may have to move them a little more often and then bring them back down this way. So it's narrow, so a lot of this gets knocked down. But don't do it before you're gonna calve. Because the animal performance will suffer, and you don't need that.
And they can thin. So we need
Yeah.
to put weight. They're
So what you're
gaining.
doing is the right thing.
I wanted to see them.
So. Okay,